Chapter 1 Are You a Virgin? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Miss Missouri, we are very sorry but without money, we can't save him. No. Please, wait. Doctor, please. Her red, cherry dot-like lips were trembling in fear. Her body was frozen as she stopped in the middle of the road the moment the doctor ended the call. Her mind went blank and her tears just won't stop falling like rain. The weak light of hope left in her heart was completely covered by nothing but darkness. Her eyes that was as beautiful as the most expensive diamond in existence was turning lifeless. Life was indeed, always too cruel for her. Her sweet little brother who was just 11 was dying. He needed a bone marrow transplant but Davi failed to find enough money needed. She already sold everything they had, and the only thing left was, her body. Davi Missouri was just an ordinary girl, but her beauty was just something even the flies wouldn't deny. Yes, she was too beautiful that she was nicknamed the most unfortunate goddess in existence. Living a poor life earned her such a nickname. People was mocking her for wasting her beauty, saying that she was like a lost diamond who was wasting her life living among the gravel stones. She was scouted by numerous talent agencies offering her what was considered lavish, but she declined them all. People called her crazy, but little did they knew how much Davi hated the entertainment industry. To her, the entertainment industry was nothing but hell. It was the same hell that ruined her entire family. Until now, her hate never subsided, to the point that she'd rather sell herself than join the same hell that was responsible for her family's death. Beep. A car was approaching her, but Davi's mind refused to work anymore. She needed someone to help her save his brother. She was ready to offer herself to the gods if his brother, the last family she had, will be saved. A BMW stopped less than a meter away from her. The car's door opened but Davi was still staring at her phone. Miss, are you in need of money that much to even attempt something like this? A manly voice faintly reached Davi's consciousness, so she blankly turned her face to a tall man who looks like a bodyguard in front of her. He was angry, but the man's eyes slightly widened the moment he saw her face. The girl was crying so hard, she looks like the world was over for her. Her eye bags were dark but her beauty was just too much to ignore. She looks like a perfect doll, almost too beautiful to be true. Yes, I need money. Davi's voice was hoarse. But her half-conscious mind still made her said what she wanted. Deep within her, she knew that if her brother will be gone as well, she thought that she won't be able to continue living anymore. Are you a virgin? The man quickly asked without beating around the bush, straight as ever. Davi instantly felt chills and her mind was immediately awakened by the words of the stranger in front of her. She knew what was the meaning of his words. Her tears fell again but she clenched her fist tight. What is dignity if I lost my only reason to keep living? What is life if the last of my family die as well, she thought. She bit her lip, then met the tall man's serious eyes bravely like a warrior. Yes. Chapter 2 One Faded Moment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon hearing the girl's answer, the tall man quickly held his phone. He turned his back and made a quick call. Then he faced the girl again. Then come with me. I need to confirm that you're a virgin first. The man moved and opened the car's door but Davi didn't move. What? You changed your mind? No, but I'm running out of time. My brother is dying. He needs a surgery right away. If I delay more, he might not make it. Davi's lost light of hope lit once again, so her brain instantly worked for another fight. She was desperate. She won't give up no matter how faint the light of hope was. What if you're lying? The man glared at her as if he was a dreadful soldier who already killed dozens or even hundreds of men. But surprisingly, Davi couldn't even feel scared anymore. There was nothing more fearful to her than the death of her only family. If I'm lying, then kill me. Her eyes glittered wildly and the man couldn't help but felt a faint aura of a warrior strangely coming from her. She was just a beautiful girl, but she felt like she was someone who went through hell. She literally looked so weak but felt so strong. She was indeed the type of a girl he was looking for. Fine, as you wish. The man's hard face almost looks like he was relieved. Relieved that he finally found someone. Then he quickly went inside the car and took a white folder with him. Here, this is the contract. If you are willing to abide, then sign it and half of the money will be transferred right now. The man said, and Davi quickly took the papers in his hand. She scanned the paper right away to the page where the amount of money was indicated. But to her surprise, there was no amount of money written in the contract. As you can see, the money depends on what you asked for. The limit of money you wanted depends on you. The man said with a straight face, looking strict and firm. Davi couldn't believe it, but she has no more time to waste. She was ready for whatever that lies ahead. She knew how absurd this kind of offer was. She knew that it was too good to be true, and yet she won't hesitate anymore. She didn't even have enough time to read what the conditions were. I'm signing it now. Ha! But you haven't even read. It's fine, I will read it later. Please, I need to save my brother first. Pen, please. The tall man's straight face frowned in disbelief. He couldn't even see any hesitation on this weak-looking girl's face. Her eyes were filled with nothing but determination. She looks like she was determined to fight even if the cost will be hell. This isn't a plaything, I'm warning you. The man said as he showed an obvious hesitation in his face while lending her a pen. But Davi quickly get the pen in his hand. She landed the papers on top of the car. Then, under a broad daylight, in the middle of a road where few cars went on passing by, she signed the contract with her heart and soul burning like fire. That moment she raised her hand, giving back the papers to the man, a mysterious smile carved in her soft red lips. It was a smile filled with mixed emotions. Pain and relief merged as one inside her chest. She was burning. She felt like the world was crushing her hard. She knew that after this one short moment, her life will never be the same again. She knew that after this one fated moment, the way she looks at herself will never be the same anymore. Chapter 3: Your Husband's Face. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 5 days passed and Davi was now inside a luxurious car heading towards a place she doesn't even know. Her brother was now safe. He was now recovering in the hospital when she left him. Davi broke down in tears when the doctors assured her that he was now stable and safe. She felt like a huge thorn stabbed on her chest were painfully pulled out and made her breath again. That day she signed the contract, Davi herself was stunned on how fast things went through. Her brother was instantly transferred to the country's most expensive hospital. He was treated as if he was an heir of the country's richest family. His room wasn't even look hospital, rather, it looks like a presidential suite. Davi only asked them to save him, she didn't ask them to treat him like a prince, but she couldn't say a word. And she was no exemption, because she was also strangely being treated like a princess. However, Davi didn't pay any attention to the sudden over-extravagant treatment she was suddenly experiencing. She just doesn't care anymore. What was important to her was nothing but her brother's safety. After his brother's successful surgery, Davi was brought to an empty church for her wedding. The church was filled with white flowers. It almost looks like a fairy's den. Every corner was beautifully designed with lavish and expensive materials. Her dress was nothing like a wedding gown, it was an evening gown designed with real gems, looking like a magical feather from the gods. Her long straight black hair was dancing gracefully as if it was a black silk waterfall. Everything she wore, everything she saw around was insanely unreal. She was literally looking like a princess in the realm of the gods. She was breathtakingly beautiful and pure. As if she was someone who was out of this world. But the magical hall was empty, she was alone. The wedding contract was already signed by a nameless someone. There was no printed name written before the signature. And yet, Davi was strangely calm the whole process. The guards were outside so no one could see her. She stared at her soon-to-be husband's signature for a long moment, then she lifted the white folder she was holding. It was the folder she signed days ago that she hasn't even read yet. The groom wasn't there, nor the priest. So Davi did the reading. She went straight in front, then read the whole contract aloud. The contract doesn't look like a joke at all, but she was smiling. The appearance almost looked like it was some sort of a government confidential file. The only thing weird was that, the content literally felt like a joke to her. The contract stated that she will be heading to her husband's mansion 5 days after her contract signing. She will become a wife until she bears a child. And after giving birth, the child won't be hers. That was all. Nothing was written what will happen after she gave birth. Basically, her only mission was to give her husband a child. However, the rules were even more strange. Especially the last one. Rule number 4. You are not allowed to see your husband's face. Davi doesn't even know how to react. She was speechless. The most important note in the last page also stated that if she broke any of those rules stated, it will cost her contract termination and jail or her life. Her mind was full of curiosity and at the same time, uneasiness and bitterness. She can't help but felt like she was no longer the her she knew. She can't help but wonder why she ended up in a situation like this. She can't help but think what was waiting for her. But after a moment, she still went and signed the marriage certificate without batting an eye. She knew that it was foolish for her to even think about backing off now. However, the moment she signed it, she just can't believe that she was already married to a man she never even seen. And worst was, she might really will never see him at all. Chapter 4 Mysteriously Gorgeous Masked Prince. You are listening at novelfull.audio. We're here, miss, her driver turned at her as he spoke. Then someone opened the door for her. She gets off the car dressed like a young pure princess in white. She looked around and was amazed by how beautiful the place was. It basically looks like it was a gray mansion in a large garden. Though one thing was strange, she sees no flowering plant around. Everything was so green and fresh, but still, something seems off. Davi turned her head and skimmed through the whole place once again, and she frowned the moment she found what was wrong. Her brows furrowed for the fact that there were just 2 colors around, dark green and dark gray. Davi was mystified, but she saw that bodyguard, Mr. Chen, approaching her along with an honorable-looking old man in his 70s, so she focused her attention to them. Miss, please allow me to introduce this house's butler. This is Mr. Go, you can ask him whatever you needed. So he's a butler. Davi wasn't sure how to react, so she bowed at him as a sign of respect to the elder when the 2 men's eyes suddenly widened. No, no. Please don't do that, Mississippi. The precious wife of our young master shouldn't bow to a mere butler like me. The old man looked so apologetic while Davi doesn't know whether she was supposed to laugh or cry. By the way, miss, the young master, your husband will be here soon. Mr. Chen told her. Then he asked the butler to tour her around the mansion while waiting for the boss. Davi still looks calm, but for some reason, she felt so nervous the moment she heard her husband was coming. The butler was touring her around, but her mind was wandering. She was thinking about a lot of things. She was thinking about her husband. She was thinking why he doesn't want her to see his face. She was thinking why his people doesn't even want to tell her anything about him, not even his name. Her mind was filled with questions until she didn't realize that they were already back to the wide, luxurious yet dull-looking sofa where they started a while ago. Okay, miss, my job is done here. I'm now going back. Huh? Where? You're going to leave me here alone? Huh, please don't worry, young miss. The butler's and maid's house is just meters away from here. You can always call us if you needed something, and besides, the young master is almost here, so I need to leave now. The butler left her right away with a warm smile. Davi was left alone in the wide silent and dull sofa. She looked around and saw nothing. Not even a single photo hanging on the spacious walls, nor flowers on top of the empty tables. Even by a single glance, Davi felt nothing but emptiness in this luxurious grey house. The sad empty feeling was just too strong that Davi unconsciously hugged herself as she stared at the hanging silver-colored chandelier. "Is it cold?" A slightly deep voice suddenly echoed inside the house, instantly made Davi's nerves seem paralyzed for a moment. She doesn't know why, but she suddenly felt chilly upon hearing his voice. After a moment, she could hear his faint steps getting closer to her, so she forced herself to turn and face him. Nope, I'm just. Davi couldn't continue speaking. She felt that she was suddenly tongue-tied upon seeing the man in front of her. Masked, her eyes almost bulge out. A tall man in black tailored suit perfectly showing his faultless body shape was standing in front of her. Wearing a black mask covering his upper face. Davi's mouth slightly opened unconsciously as she stared at him. She couldn't believe that this man, whom she couldn't even see his whole face, was still looking so gorgeous. Even though she could only see his gorgeous sexy lips, she just can't stop feeling charmed by his seemingly hidden ethereal beauty. He literally looks like a mysteriously gorgeous masked prince in a masquerade party intended only for demigods. Who are you? Davi forced her stunned self to talk. Your husband. The man replied with his same slightly deep and sexy voice. However, his short reply, your husband, was enough to create another chaos inside her. Davi's emotions literally gone wild, contradicting each other's, that she didn't know what was she feeling at this very moment anymore. Chapter 5. What's your name? You are listening at novelfull.audio. A long pause of silence enveloped the large room where two people, one angel-like and one devil-like, stood motionless as they stared at each other. The masked man was standing with his one hand on his pocket, seemingly observing the angel in front of him. Davi, on the other hand, felt like she was a little white mouse waiting for her fated death in the hand of the big dark beast in front of her. She felt like the dark beast was slowly seeing through her very deepest soul, as if the gods bestowed him the power to examine every mortal's deepest secrets. Scared. The man's single word was akin to a firework, startling her all of a sudden but making her heart go wild because of its seemingly magical beauty. Ha! No, nope. No. Well, yes, I am. Davi's knees were actually completely weakened. The presence of the man before her was enough to suck her energy. The man was just too scary, she wouldn't dare to even lie to him. His mysteriously dark and icy demeanor almost felt like he was a monster, disguised as a beautiful man. But right after she said those words, Davi's eyes widened when the man raised his hand to his nape. Then he sighed as if he expected her to be like that. Regretting now? No. Wanna go back home? No. Davi didn't hesitate to answer the man's questions. It was because she felt like the man was testing her, and one wrong answer might cost her her life. Scared but still want to stay? Yes. The man put down his hand back to his pocket. The girl's last answer was enough to convince him that this girl wasn't bad at all. Her eyes, burning with determination and wild fighting spirit, were nothing like how she looks. He could tell in one glance that she wasn't a weakling, there was something unfathomable within her fragile-looking body. Good. The man seemed slightly satisfied as he started removing his suit jacket. On the other hand, Davi breathed quietly deep, then looked straight on his masked eyes. What's your name? Say. Just call me Say. The man's words were firm, indicating that he won't say any more than what he said. His voice was just filled with authority, like a heartless ruler from the ancient world. His words seem absolute that Davi can't help but wonder what will this monster do to her once she goes against him. She was wondering why the hell was he hiding his face and identity this much, to the point of wearing a mask inside his own house, but she knew this wasn't the right time to ask for the reasons yet. The contract stated that I'm not allowed to see your face. But what if I accidentally saw you? I mean just in case. Yes. Accidentally. Accident. That won't happen. Davi was speechless. How could this man be so sure? Is he seeing himself as a god now? But how about when you sleep? Are you going to sleep wearing your mask? Davi felt like her questions were somewhat stupid and funny, but the man didn't reply, rather he quietly slipped his hand in his pocket and took something from it. He lends his hand in front of her. Davi stared at the red cloth in his hand confused. You'll wear this every time we're on bed. Davi's mouth hanged open when she realized what it was. It was a red blindfold. Wait. What? Seriously? I'm going to sleep blindfolded from now on. Are you kidding me? This is insane. Davi couldn't believe what he said. She doesn't know how to react. She was completely out of words. If he was another man, she might already have kicked his precious balls long time ago for saying such insanely absurd things. But he was him. She knew at first glance that he was nothing compared to all the men she met before. She knew that he was exactly defined as danger himself, and his words was nothing but absolute orders. Chapter 6 Seduce Him. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Oi, say. What the hell was all these? A loud voice broke the silence and made Davi's head turn right away to the entrance where the voice came. And the moment she saw what was it, she blinked almost 10 times. Another tall handsome guy, looking like a flower boy, was standing there holding a bunch of red flowers in his hands. The flowers were just too many for him to even hold, that some of them were already scattered on the floor. But the man's irritated face suddenly turned soft the moment he saw Davi. His eyes almost glittered with nothing but happiness. His messy brown hair and pretty face was like he was a member of an idol boy band. Hi young miss, he excitedly exclaimed as he walked closer to them with a big smile while the flowers kept on falling on the floor one after another. However, Davi hadn't even answered him yet when another loud voice echoed once again. Hey boss. What the hell was all th? Another guy popped in the entrance with same bunch of red flowers on his hands. But the two men near Davi ignored the young man, who was instantly silenced and halted the moment he saw her. Anyway, I'm Ryu, I'm Say's. I mean, your husband's friend. The joyful flower boy said with his same sweet smile. Nice to meet you. I'm Davi. Davi politely greeted him with a smile that made him blush a little. Ryu himself was surprised on how beautiful Davi was in person. Her looks were just something beyond beautiful. Ah. This. Ryu realized that Davi was looking at the flowers he was holding, so he stared at the quiet man beside him. Why this many? Ryu asked him with soft voice filled with disbelief. You said she will like them, the masked man blankly said while loosening his tie, then he quietly walked away towards the stairs. Ryu and Davi was left with their mouth hanging slightly opened until Say disappeared from their sight. I didn't say you'll buy these many though, Ryu said as if he was a problematic father, who couldn't figure out the way his own son's mind worked. He suddenly let go of the bunch of flowers in his hands and all of them fell on the floor. Davi was a bit surprised since she knew that they weren't just ordinary red roses. They were actually the most expensive red roses around. Now what are we going to do about all these? He bought all these for you, but he bought too much. There's still a truck filled with red roses outside. Haha. Ryu was laughing it off while Davi's eyes widened as she felt a bit relieved. For some reason, her fear was lessened a bit just because Say, her scary masked husband, weirdly bought her a truck of red roses. She was a bit glad that he at least wanted to give her something he thought she likes, but at the same time, her curiosity about him also dramatically increased. Somewhere within her, she wanted to know more about this mysterious man. In the spacious master's bedroom, Davi already showered and was now ready to sleep. Ryu said that Sei might be in his study room and disturbing him might not be a good idea. So Davi went and get a vase downstairs, put some of the red roses in it and took it back in the bedroom. After some moment, she laid in the bed, dressed with a blue large T printed with a smiling skull, paired with a comfortable knee leveled short. Feeling deeply uncomfortable and nervous, she quietly stared at the ceiling while the red blindfold was in her hand. Her long black hair was tied in a bun as her skin seems glowing. The red roses and the red blindfold were the only colored existence inside the black and gray spacious bedroom. What made you think you can seduce me dressed like that? Sei's sexy voice instantly made Davi rose. She felt like her heart almost jumped out of her chest. She looked at the door and Sei was there standing like a perfectly cool masked prince even in his all-black pajamas. Seduce. Davi didn't get what he meant. Why would she seduce him? He can do whatever he likes to her anyway, right? Or was it because he's not attracted to her at all? Are you serious? Sei moved his long legs and walked closer to her, but he stopped midway. The red roses caught his eyes for a moment, and then stared back to the girl sitting like a good student on his bed. He then casually sat beside her not knowing that Davi's heartbeat was now in chaos. She was unbelievably nervous but she's trying her best to calm herself. Did Zaki mention anything about me? Zaki. I mean, Chen Hidovi Ko Davi shook her head as she stared nervously to the man beside her. Sei also turned his face towards her. There's actually a problem. Chapter 7 Make Me Want You. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Davi's heartbeat went even faster the moment she heard him said that there was a problem. Her face turned visibly worried. It was just her first night with him, she just met her mysterious husband and there's already a problem. Problem. Yes, it's about me, he answered making Davi felt instantly relieved. Wait. What? The problem is about him. Davi's anxiety suddenly fell as if her blood pressure drastically went down from over 100 to normal. Tell me, do you clearly understand what are your job as my wife? Yes boss, crystal clear. Davi covered her mouth right away when she realized the way she answered him. She was actually a bit flustered when he called her my wife. However, the man himself seemed like he didn't mind at all. Good. Then, what's the problem? No woman can arouse me. Davi blinked for more than 10 times, a long pause of deafening silence went by, then her eyes slowly turned wide. What? Wait. You're gay. The masked man's cold but calm aura suddenly blazed like an ice-cold fire the moment he heard what she said. On the other hand, Davi's instinct suddenly made her move right away, putting wide distance between them and instantly tugging the blanket, hiding herself behind it. She felt like she just awakened the sleeping monster within him. She couldn't see his expressions but his aura was enough to give her goosebumps, as if she was just touched by a ghost. However, moment passed by but the monster didn't do anything so she slowly put down the blanket halfway, peeking like a scared cat to the masked man before her. His extremely dangerous aura just now started subsiding yet Davi's sweat from the sudden deadly blizzard a moment ago kept persisting. No. His stone-cold voice almost felt like it made her sweats frozen. His word was just as absolute as ever indicating his solid unquestionable answer. Are you sure? Once again, Davi almost wanted to just tape her own stubborn mouth. She was still so scared and yet she can't stop herself from digging her own grave. But surprisingly, the man seemed unbothered. Yes. Men are out of the question. Then why? Lack of interest in women. The way he answered her just felt like he was absolutely certain, there's no doubt or hesitation at all. But Davi's curiosity about the man before her is even greater than her fear, thus not stopping her to talk. But how about men? I mean, in romantic way. Are you interested in them? Davi was surprised herself for her braveness, but her brave self slowly succumbs in fear once again when the man didn't reply. Say was actually being a bit impressed. It was the first time any woman dared talking to him like this, despite just meeting each other few hours ago. He could tell how stubborn she was, how curious she was, how she still kept talking to him despite her obvious fear. And the most intriguing to him was that, this fragile-looking yet brave creature was surprisingly making him answer her, even her every ridiculous questions. Not interested in men either. His voice was firm, but it's as if he's indicating that he was already bored with their topic. But his reply made Davi's fear subside once again. So basically, you're not interested in both men and women? Yes. Davi slowly covered her mouth as if being really surprised. Seriously. He's not just interested in human beings, right? Maybe because he is a real monster. Maybe it's because he's actually interested in witches or magical girls. Davi couldn't help but think about lots of ridiculous ideas. However, she continued asking him since he's still giving her his answers despite him seemingly being a man of few words. Then why did you marry me? I need a child. His instant answer was like a lightning suddenly striking her. She knew very well that she had no right to say no, she knew that her life was already his, but she just still can't imagine herself bearing a child and becoming a mother. She already gathered her resolve, she believes that her mind and heart were ready, but still, her soul refused to abide. But how can I give you a child if you? That's why you need to seduce me. Make me want you. Chapter 8 A Strange Creature. You are listening at novelfull.audio. That's why you need to seduce me. Make me want you, seduce me. Make me want you. Make me want you. Say's words was like an echo inside a huge complicated cave, making Davi's head almost went dry. She was speechless and weakened. Her resolve in giving him her body was already carved in her mind and heart. However, she never expected something like this at all. That she will be the one to do the move on him. She was completely bewildered. She just sold herself to a stranger and married him callously. She already used all the remaining resolve she had on giving him her body. There's almost nothing left in her, and yet another challenge was suddenly given to her. She had no experience, she was never even in a relationship before. She had no idea, she was scared. What if she can't make him want her? What if she failed to seduce him? What will he do to her and her brother? Sea of what-ifs covered Davi's eyes. She was strong, she was confident in her strength. She can even go at the edge of hell if that's what he wants, but she just had no confidence in her ability to seduce a man. She was sure that climbing Mt. Everest was easier than seducing a man who was never even once aroused to neither a man or woman. She was worriedly unsure whether she has what it takes to make a man who was basically uninterested in human beings want her. At the same time, she was confused. The first thing they asked her was whether she was a virgin or not. Therefore, they knew that she had no experience. So why? If that's the case, then why didn't you seek someone who's experienced? I already did. Experience has nothing to do with it. Davi bit her own lips. If experienced women failed to arouse him, then wasn't it even more futile for someone like her? Why don't you just? I mean, I heard about some drugs. Or that thing called 4F. Upon saying those words, Davi once again grabbed the blanket and covered herself as fast as lightning. That's because the man before her suddenly blazed once again. And this time, his aura was 10 times darker, making her body shuddered in fear as if a real ghost suddenly appeared in front of her very face. She was so scared. At that moment, she was now sure that this man was really dangerous. She was never scared with any human like this before. Meanwhile, Say realized that the girl beside him was trembling in fear. And yet she forced herself to talk. Sorry, she said. Her voice was soft and hoarse, but enough to make Say strangely calmed down right away. Tell me, do you really want me to use a drug on you? His ice-cold question made Davi realized how foolish her idea was. She then felt shiver and shame just by thinking about it. At the same time, she was glad that this man, despite his monstrous aura and mysteriousness, he seems like he didn't even consider doing it. I'm so sorry. Please forget about it, I will try my best to seduce you. Good. And that IVF, don't even think about it again. Davi could feel his immense hate to the idea of IVF. She was sure it wasn't just a simple issue to him. She almost felt like it was a taboo word to him. Can I ask you to give me some time to even a day is fine. Davi couldn't continue what she wanted to say. She wanted time to process her resolve, research and learn the science of seducing a man. Because she was the kind of girl who doesn't want to throw herself into a fight without any weapon. I'm traveling abroad tomorrow. You can have the time you wanted. Though I'm warning you, don't even think about breaking the rules while I'm gone. The masked man talked as if he already understood what she wanted, then casually taking the blindfold in her hand. He carefully wrapped the girl's enchanting eyes with the red blindfold while the girl was being unbelievably tense the whole process. Afterwards, Say stared at his blindfolded wife. But he had no words to describe her. Now sleep, he said as he removed his black mask. Davi could only deduce what he was doing until she heard something that slowly landed on the table beside him. She knew it was his mask. Good night, she said, but the man didn't reply. He just laid quietly, so Davi did the same. It was already past midnight and Say decided to get off the bed. He carefully removed the light and soft arm of his wife violently hugging his neck as if she's trying to strangle him. He could feel her slow breathing indicating her being in her deep sleep. He turned on the light then sat while quietly watching her sleeping face along with her unbelievable sleeping posture. She was so not ladylike at all, and she's sleeping in a way that looks like she just wanted nothing but monopolize the large bed, as if it was her personal territory. The blindfold was actually useless. It was already on her neck. Say himself didn't expect the girl to be that wild even when she's sleeping. He couldn't even sleep with all her violent and sudden movements. His eyes glimmered mysteriously, thinking that she was a strange creature. She was just sleeping soundly without any care in the world, and yet she still manages to give him a hard time, even kicking him out of his own bed. Making his gorgeous brows furrowed because of the fact that he was actually not angered at all, surprisingly, he was tolerating her supposedly unforgivable manner. Something that never happened to him before. Chapter 9 Mystified. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At dawn. Say was sitting like a tyrant prince inside a dim, quiet room. He was looking at the moon outside the large window, emotionless, holding a mask on his hand. So, how's your first night with her? A man suddenly uttered behind him, breaking the impending silence. Disaster. Pfft, ha ha ha. The man couldn't help but laugh. He was literally amused with Say's one-word description about his first night with his wife. He walked closer to him and the light of the moon made his face visible. He was that bodyguard Davi called Mr. Chen. However, the moment Say saw his face, he instantly gazed at him with a sharp deadly stare. Yeah, I'm taking it off now. The man touched his neck, then after a while, he took off something that appeared to be a mask. In a short while, the soldier-looking guy suddenly turned into a man with breathtakingly beautiful face, pale as sheet of paper, as if he was a vampire. His skin and facial features were exactly vampire-like, that anyone who sees him might think vampires were real and he was their long-lost prince. Your wife was so comfortable with this face though, she even called me Mr. Chen, he sighed while looking at the mask on his hand. So, how's she? Did you guys talk normally? She's strange. Yes, she said I'm gay. Pfft, ha ha ha. Seriously? She said that. Wait. You didn't hurt her because of that, right? Strangely, I couldn't get angry at her. At all. Say's answer made the vampire-looking man speechless in a good way. He looks like he was happy, as if being proud of himself. Tell me, Zaki, why did you choose her? Well. Because of her look. Of course. My instinct told me you will definitely like her. Zaki's answer was an obvious lie. Say could tell he's not willing to tell him the truth. He knows that Zaki will never hide anything from him without any serious reason. If you still refuse to answer me the next time I'll ask you that, I'll kill you. Say's voice was like a frozen stone. Heartless and cold. But Zaki still smiled mischievously, as if he was already expecting every word he'll say. I got it. I will tell you at the right time. Say was already gone when Davi woke up. The men she met, Ryu and that teenage boy named Jean, was also gone, along with that bodyguard she called Mr. Chen. It was as if any traces of their existence suddenly disappeared along with them. Davi was mystified. She can't believe that she slept soundly and comfortably the whole night alongside her mysterious and cold husband. She expected that she might be sleep-deprived from now on, since she always had trouble sleeping in an unfamiliar place, much more sleeping with a mysterious person she just met, and yet the opposite happened. Is it because she was just tired? Everything about her husband, Say, was just too intriguing, but she could only wear a quiet, complex expression in her face. Young miss, this was left by the young master for you. The old butler, Mr. Go, was the only person left in the huge grey mansion. Davi stared at the elegant-looking glass-like silver card in his hand. She slowly took it with her brows knitted. This is, she stared at the old man, curious. Ah, that's. You will use that for your personal expenses, young Mississippi. You can get anything you wanted with that. The old man's face was pleasantly bright as he smiled at her. Thank you. But where is he? I mean the MS. Say. I'm sorry, young miss, but the young master already left hours ago. Davi could only press her lips tight upon hearing what the old man said. When will he come back? I'm afraid I can't tell when, even I don't know where he went, and when will he come home again. The old man looks apologetic, making Davi a bit awkward. But she tried showing him that she's totally fine with it, making the old man visibly relieved. Davi was led right away by the old man in a large dining table, and a luxurious food meant for a princess was served for her. She could only blink her eyes as she sat on the chair alone, while the butler and the maid stood motionless on the corner, as if they were just wallflowers. She tried urging them to eat with her, but she noticed right away that it was futile. Thus, she ate her breakfast alone, feeling deeply left out, as if she was alone in the world. Chapter 10, Step Number 01. You are listening at novelfull.audio. That same day Say left, Davi took her bag and went out of the grey mansion. She insisted going out on her own, but the worrywart butler just won't let her, so she ended up being escorted until she reached the hospital. She spent the day with her recovering little brother and then went to her high school best friend at night. Her best friend Hinari was actually a hardcore fan of all sort of romance-related things. Currently, she was aiming to become a successful romantic author, and the fact that Davi couldn't even count the number of boys she dated back in high school made her the right person Davi needs. Of course, Davi's intention in meeting her was because of her new mission. She went to her to seek for advice. And thus, days went by in a flash, but Say didn't come back. Davi's notebook were already filled with the notes she gathered for the 3 nights she spent with her best friend. Unfortunately, Hinari was set to go on a trip, so Davi was left with her brother and was now spending her time surfing and reading all sort of articles and books, related to what was called the art of flirting and seduction. After 7 days, the grey mansion was in chaos. The old butler can't control the mansion's wild princess anymore. 3 days ago, the butler mentioned that Say was actually taking such a long time whenever he goes abroad, and he said that a month was surprisingly the shortest, making Davi shocked. At the same time, glad, for she didn't expect that she will be given such plenty of time to prepare for the approaching battle. She then came and insisted to make some changes in the mansion's garden. She wanted the dark, chilly garden to turn into something romantic. She wanted to add some colors in its monotone look. She wanted to transform it into a perfect dating spot for future purposes. Well, everyone was pleased with her idea, if not for the fact that she wanted to do it herself, something that made the butler and the maids completely bewildered but couldn't do a thing. Their lady boss was just so stubborn and kind at the same time, giving them no choice but listen to her. However, under the bright sunny day, a blizzard suddenly covered the bright sky. Shockingly, Say suddenly appeared, making all of them tense. The servants were scared, for they were caught red-handed for the fact that they servants were clean and tidy while their lady boss was like a dethroned princess who turned into a beautiful gardener. At that same moment, Davi was quietly standing like a soldier waiting for her superior to scold her, wearing another large white printed tee paired with black jogging pants. Her hair was tied in a messy bun while her face and neck was wet with sweat, indicating her long time of working under the sun. However, Say didn't talk, he just skimmed the quiet girl before her. He noticed her hand, looking dirty as if she just played with muds. This is. I'm planting in the garden, she said, smiling pleasantly at him. Welcome back. Davi stared at the masked man in front of her, and without any care about how she looks, she instantly transformed herself into what she called the instant mission mode. She remembered the first thing she wrote in her notebook, step number 1. Gaze and smile. Hinari told her that the power of gaze was actually huge, that it can melt even the thickest invisible wall between you and your target, while a dazzling and natural smile was effortless sexy that can melt even the coldest heart. Therefore, Davi put all her energies in her eyes and did her best not to look away from him while trying to bring out what Hinari said, her flirtatious nature. However, one thing was off, the mask was on the way, almost being a huge block that kept distracting her. Well, she can't see his eyes, so eye contact might be useless, but she still did it anyway. She was unsure about whether he was affected or not, but she has to follow her plans at all cost. Besides, she never knows, it might actually work on him. Meanwhile, Say was observing Davi's expressions. The girl suddenly showing such warm wide smile, and eyes filled with intense energy made Say quietly baffled. He could tell that the girl was up to something, but for some reason, he seemed pleased a little bit.